On this side here we've got the intake housing, and then in the front the silver part is the intake housing cover. Then this far side we've got the intake tube, and then here in the middle we've got the high flow filter.
Okay, now that we've seen what the new air intake system looks like, we're going to go ahead and start removing the old system. This is what the stock configuration looks like with the stock air tube and the stock air box. First step is going to be to remove the negative side of the battery terminal, and then we're going to loosen up these clamps here and remove the breather hose vent tube. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and we're just going to loosen these hose clamps right now. We're not going to remove them quite yet. And this Okay, now we're going to remove the breather hose vent tube. There's just a little clip on the side here. You pull it down and away, and then up and around, and then it just slides off. And then the same down here. Just pull it up and away and around, and then it slides off.
Alright, next we need to remove the mass airflow sensor, which is connected right here to the intake tube. We need to pull this red clip all the way out. Make sure it doesn't go any further, otherwise it won't release. And then grab on and just slide it off. Next we're going to remove the 10mm bolt, which is holding the stock intake box to the inner fender well. And make sure you hang on to this bolt, because we're going to need that to connect the new one. Alright, now we're going to remove the stock air intake box and the intake tube from the throttle body.
Okay, now we're going to remove the 10mm bolt over by the ABS module. Make sure to hold on to this because it's going to be used again later like the other one. Okay, now we've got to take the stock air box and remove the rubber isolation mounts from the bottom. We're going to need both of them, so just grab them and pull them off. And then we're going to place them down into the holes down here. And then we're going to place the new air box in on top of it. So place the new air box in. And then we're going to reinstall the bolts.
Alright, next we're going to be inserting the MAF, or the mass airflow sensor, but we wanted to show you the difference between the two intake tubes. If you notice on the inside there, the new one, which is this one here, is more of smooth on the inside, which increases the airflow. It's more of a straight shot. This one, you can see the ribs on the inside. Also, you can see that this one has more curves, so it's less of a straight shot. This one's more of a straight shot of air, which increases your airflow. Alright, removing the mass airflow sensor, you're going to use a nut driver to get these two nuts out here, and that's going to slide right out. Alright, now that we've got the new intake tube, we're going to put on the supplied gasket from our kit. Remove this white part from the back, and it's going to stick right on. Stick it right onto the actual tube. Make sure you don't cover up the holes. Now we're going to take the sensor, we're going to slide it in. Make sure that you put it in the right way. If you don't put it in, it's not going to work. On the front of it, it'll say flow, pointing the direction that the airflow needs to go. Alright, now we've already pre-assembled this, but the next thing you need to do, you need to install the mass airflow sensor. When you do that, make sure that you leave these white spacers right here in between the intake tube and the sensor itself, and then run the screw right down through it.
Okay, now we're going to take the coupler and install the hose clamps. Make sure to put them going the same way, just for ease of installation. And then we're going to install it onto the front of the intake tube like this, and then tighten it down. And then we're going to install it over onto the throttle body. Okay, now you're going to want to make sure to leave this one just a little bit loose so you've got some room to work. You're going to slide this end into the air intake box, and then you're just going to pinch this right here, and it'll slide right on, and then tighten up both of these.
Alright, next we're going to connect the intake hose to the intake housing. We're going to use the M6 bolt with the washer and the nut. Next we're going to connect the mass airflow sensor. Just push that down and then make sure you push the red clip in.
Okay, now we're going to install the air filter. Put the hose clamp on the end and then slide it onto the tube in the housing. And then snug it down.
Next we're going to connect the rubber breather hose to the factory vent location on the side of the valve cover. And connect the other end to the side of the intake tube.
Okay, now we're going to install the intake housing cover. When you install the filter, make sure you don't slide it up too high because it should angle down some. You have to make sure that when you put on the lid that you've got clearance. So just place that on there. Again, check for clearance, and then install these along the sides. Okay, as you can see, this makes for a professional looking installation. The airbox lid gives a nice aftermarket look, and again you're going to gain 19 horsepower, 22 foot-pounds of torque, and with conservative driving you'll pick up approximately another 1 mile per gallon.